Welcome to Mind Marvel. Today we are going to talk about a topic that's on everyone's mind, World War III.
Russian invasion of Ukraine.
The thought of another global conflict is terrifying, and it's important that we understand what could potentially happen if such a war were to occur. Imagine waking up to the sound of sirens and alarms. You turn on the news and see images of destruction and chaos. Your heart races as you realize that your country is under attack. This is the reality that millions of people faced during World War II. But what if it happened again? What if World War III were to break out? One of the most devastating impacts of a global conflict would be on civilizations and infrastructure. In times of war, homes and essential services such as hospitals and schools can be destroyed, leading to displacement and loss of access to basic necessities. The economic impact on affected communities can also be significant, with the destruction of infrastructure and loss of life leading to long-term economic challenges. It's important to consider the psychological effects of living under the threat of a global conflict as well. The constant fear of uncertainty can lead to increased levels of anxiety and stress, and it's important for individuals to find ways to manage these emotions. Seeking support from friends, family, and mental health professionals can be helpful in times of crisis. Let's talk about the countries that would likely be involved in such a conflict. It's important to note that any speculation about which countries would join a hypothetical World War III is just that, speculation. However, based on current global tensions and alliances, it's likely that major world powers would play a significant role in any future global conflict. The United States and its allies, including countries in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, would likely be involved in such a war. Russia and its allies, including member states of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, CESTO, would also likely be involved. China, as a rising global power, could also potentially play a significant role. Other countries, such as North Korea and Iran, may also potentially become involved due to their volatile relationships with the major world powers. It's also important to consider the potential of non-state actors, such as terrorist groups, to play a role in a global conflict. Continuing on the topic of international organizations and diplomatic efforts in preventing or mitigating a global conflict, it's important to consider the roles that these bodies play in maintaining peace and resolving conflicts peacefully. The United Nations, for example, is an international organization that works to promote cooperation and understanding between nations, as well as to prevent and resolve conflicts through diplomacy and mediation. Other international bodies, such as the International Committee of the Red Cross, work to provide humanitarian assistance and protection to those affected by armed conflicts. These organizations play a critical role in mitigating the impact of global conflicts and promoting peace and stability around the world. Efforts towards disarmament and non-proliferation have also been ongoing for decades, with the goal of reducing the number of nuclear weapons and preventing their spread to additional countries. The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, signed in 1970, aims to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and promote disarmament and has been ratified by over 190 countries. While disarmament and non-proliferation efforts have made significant progress, the existence of nuclear weapons remains a significant concern, and their potential use adds an element of fear and uncertainty to any global conflict. It is important for the international community to continue working towards disarmament and the peaceful resolution of conflicts in order to prevent the devastating consequences of a global war. So how would this war be fought? It's likely that it would involve a combination of traditional military tactics, such as ground invasions and airstrikes, as well as cyber warfare and the use of drones. The use of nuclear weapons, while unlikely, cannot be ruled out given the potential for devastating consequences. Now, let's talk about the weapons that would likely be used in such a conflict. The use of nuclear weapons would have catastrophic consequences, leading to widespread destruction and potentially millions of deaths. Chemical and biological weapons could also potentially be used, causing widespread suffering and death. Conventional weapons, such as tanks, planes, and missiles, would also be heavily utilized. The use of drones for both military operations and surveillance would also likely play a significant role. It's difficult to estimate the exact number of deaths that would occur in the event of a global conflict, as it would depend on a variety of factors, such as the weapons used, the duration of the conflict, and the countries involved. However, it's safe to say that the number of deaths would be in the millions, potentially even reaching into the tens of millions. Now, let's delve deeper into the topic of nuclear weapons. These weapons have the ability to cause widespread destruction and devastation on an unprecedented scale. The use of just 2 or 3 nuclear warheads could lead to millions of deaths and the destruction of entire cities. The radiation from a nuclear explosion can also have long-term health effects on survivors, including an increased risk of cancer and other serious illnesses. The use of nuclear weapons would also have environmental consequences, including the contamination of air, water, and soil. The destruction of infrastructures such as roads, bridges, and power plants would also have a devastating impact on the affected areas. It's important to note that the use of nuclear weapons is highly unlikely due to the potential consequences. However, the fact that they exist and the possibility of their use adds an element of fear and uncertainty to any global conflict. The use of these terrifying weapons is highly controversial, and their proliferation has been a major concern for the international community. Efforts towards disarmament and non-proliferation have been ongoing for decades, with the goal of reducing the number of nuclear weapons and preventing their spread to additional countries. It's not just the direct effects of the conflict that would have a devastating impact. The economic and political consequences would be felt worldwide. The global economy would likely suffer, leading to widespread financial instability. The refugee crisis, as people flee from the violence, would also likely worsen. The psychological and emotional toll on individuals, families, and communities would also be devastating. The loss of loved ones, the destruction of homes and communities, and the trauma of living through a global conflict would have a lasting impact on the mental health of those affected. The thought of another world war is frightening, but it's important that we understand the potential consequences and do everything in our power to prevent such a conflict from occurring. It's up to all of us to work towards a more peaceful and stable world. We hope that this discussion has given you a better understanding of the potential consequences of World War III and the importance of all countries working collectively towards peace. If you want to learn more about topics like this and discover the amazing potential of human achievement, be sure to subscribe to our channel and watch the next Mind Marvel.